Yeah, very.
Oh, okay.
About 10 seconds, guys. Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us on our Budget Connect tonight. And we look forward to answering questions that have been sent in advance, as well as those who have submitted them this evening. This is a great opportunity for our citizens to engage with our City Council and to understand as well as participate more in the budget process. So I'd like to introduce our council, who is also here tonight. We have Vice Mayor Terry Rowe, Councilmember Mark Stewart, Councilmember Jeremy McClymans, Councilmember Sam Huang, Councilmember Renee Lopez, and Councilmember Matt Orlando. Now there's a big applause as everyone's at their home doing this for us. So. I was excited to learn that we had almost 995 citizens provide input on our city budget and finances through the most recent citizen budget survey. Involved residents provide our city council and staff with informed and practical advice. You have a voice, and we do want to hear it. And at this time, I would like to open public discussion with a few questions from our budget survey. Sports fields were a very popular topic through the survey questions this year, so we're going to start with a question related to surrounding fields. I would like to ask Brenda Brown, our Community Services Director, to come up and let me read a most variegated multi-question here. What improvements have been made or are planning to be made to ensure the number of sports fields and sports courts in Chandler are keeping up with the recreational needs with our residents? And two related questions are very similar to that. Lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the nation. Will Chandler help us grow by increasing field space, lighting, and allowing lining for lacrosse as well as other CYSA sports? And are there plans for irrigation to be installed at the fields of Snedeker so that they can be seeded with rye for the winter?
All
Brenda Brown.
right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. City of Chandler's park system currently consists of 67 developed parks totaling over 1,200 acres. In the past 25 years, the number of developed parks has doubled, while the number of acres has quadrupled. We're working very hard to keep up with the demand for sports fields and the expanding number of sports that take place on Chandler's fields and courts. As an example, tomorrow community service staff will meet with a lacrosse organization to discuss their needs and their field space. The city currently has 47 sports fields located at 11 different parks and in other 13 fields at various schools that are utilized for youth and adult leagues. Last year, we added 2 lighted multi-use fields at Tumbleweed Park, as well as 6 pickleball courts at Arrowhead Meadows Park. We're currently in the process of adding additional pickleball courts at Arbuckle and La Paloma parks. Next year, we'll be adding 2 lighted multi-use fields at Chuparosa Park, as well as 4 lighted multi-use fields at Tumbleweed Park, increasing the number of sports fields in Chandler by 17%. We're often asked about the irrigation at Snedeker, and actually Snedeker is fully irrigated. However, we do not irrigate in the winter because we do not overseed with ryegrass. And we do that for several reasons. One is the cost and the water conservation. But most important is that to overseed would reduce the amount of time that would be available for play, as we would have to close our fields for 4 to 6 weeks during the fall when our teams are very busy practicing and competing. And we would also have to close again in the spring during the transition from rye back to Bermuda. Next year, we hope to initiate a comprehensive master plan that will evaluate Chandler's existing and future recreation needs to ensure that our park system is meeting the needs of the community.
Thank you. Brenda, if you'd stay up for one more question.
Oh, okay.
Will the Chandler Center of the Arts expand offerings to attract all demographics, I suppose a wider variety?
That's a really good question, because last year, using grant funds, the Chandler Cultural Foundation conducted a community market analysis to examine community interests in performing arts and entertainment. The focus groups were discussions organized around patron experience, programs, and marketing. Overarching themes about the programs showed a very high interest in stage plays, musical performances, interactive and mixed discipline performances. And the research also identified the need for an upgraded facility, which we're working on, and patron experience, updated graphic design, and the need to establish a new brand identity for the 30-year-old center. The community spoke, and we listened, and in this upcoming 30th anniversary season, the Center for the Arts will roll out its new brand, upgraded facilities, and a lineup of artists across multiple genres that serve multiple demographics. The season opener will be Melissa Etheridge on July 13th, 2019, and look for more information on chandlercenter.org. The Chandler Center for the Arts is evolving and changing with our community. We urge residents who haven't been to the center for a while to come out and check out the programming, and a perfect time to do that, it would be to come to the free concert on St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, when award-winning Scottish band Scaryvore will be performing.
Very good. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome.
Another popular question from the survey from our citizens has to do with safety. As our community expands, we receive a lot of questions about safety. And while we're very grateful that Chandler is a safe city, we always want to answer questions. So for our next question, I'd like to invite Chief Duggan from our Chandler Police Department to come up. As you're coming up, here's the question. What are the plans for adding more police officers to South Chandler as our community continues to grow?
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of council. Each year we conduct a staffing analysis looking at the number of officers we have assigned to patrol to make sure that we have the right balance of officers out there on the street answering calls for service. And when we look at that analysis, we take into account a number of different variables. We look at the number of calls for service, we look at response times, we look at average time spent on calls and distance traveled, and a number of variables. And over the course of the last just under 3 years, as a result of those studies, we've added 15 additional bodies to patrol. So 15 additional sworn officers are assigned to patrol out on the street answering calls. Some of those positions were a result of civilianizing positions we had in the police, replacing officers with civilians and then taking those officers and putting them back out on the street. Some were the result of reclassifications that we've had, different openings throughout the city, not just the police department. And then some of those positions were the result of new positions actually added to the officer complement. And just this last January, as a result of gaining those additional bodies, we were able to create an additional beat, we call Beat 18, which is in the furthest southern part of the city. And that is designed now with those additional bodies to reduce response times in South Chandler and really to enhance the overall level of service we provide to the people who live in the southern part of the city.
Okay. Thank you, Chief. All right. Next, I would like to have our Management Services Director, Dawn Lang, to lead us in a discussion of our budget survey results. Dawn. Can I still call you Dollar Dawn since you manage our dollars?
Mayor, you can call me that all day long. Good evening, Mayor and Council and citizens watching from home. Thank you very, very much for tuning in tonight. I'm happy to give you some information regarding the budget survey results. First of all, you might ask how long we've done this. This is actually our 8th year of conducting the survey. And the answer as to why we do the survey is shown on this slide. First of all, we try to make it convenient. We know it's not always easy to find time to attend a council meeting or public hearing, so this is a simple way you can provide feedback while you're having your morning cup of coffee. Second, we all believe Chandler's a special place with a special quality of life. So it's important to hear what services or amenities are on your mind and to help us improve to an even higher level of service. The City of Chandler provides hundreds of services. Many of these are things that you see every day, like public safety departments, recreation classes, and our outstanding libraries. But there are also things like economic development and information technology that are behind the scenes, but critical to the city's future. Finally, the full survey is way too large to cover in this meeting, but there are 3 questions and results that I wanted to share. The first one, 96% of Chandler rated quality of life as excellent or good. Secondly, 96% said they would get a good return on the tax dollars in Chandler. And third, 97% of those taking the survey scored Chandler City services very high. Great results. So in summary, Chandler continues to be a great place to live, work, and play. Chandler citizens receive great return on tax dollars, and citizens support past decisions and future direction provided by Chandler. You can also find the full report if you would like on chandleraz.gov/budget.
Thank you, Director Lang.
You're very welcome.
All right. We're going to go back to some of the survey questions and continue to answer them. Our next question is, how does staff analyze developers' requests for multifamily projects? And what is the long-term projection for multifamily in our community? So Derek Horn, our Development Services Director, please come up and shine some light on this question.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Those are excellent questions. I will take the first one. How do we analyze a developer's request for multifamily projects? Well, there are 3 components of our analysis. First, we look at the city's strategic and policy documents, primarily the general plan, which was adopted by the voters several years ago with over 80% approval. We also look at any applicable area plans. We meet occasionally with developers on ideas for multifamily projects. We'll compare their ideas against the plans And some proposals never make it beyond those discussions because they're incompatible with those plans. We also look at where the general plan directs development. There are growth areas like downtown and North Arizona Avenue, the infill district, which is north of Pecos and east of the 101, and high-capacity transit corridors, like, for example, Chandler Boulevard and North Arizona Avenue. The second component is site-specific staff review. We examine the applications for compatibility with adjacent areas, look at building massing, architectural design. We check for traffic impacts and will likely request a traffic impact study. And then we provide feedback to the developer who is expected to incorporate that feedback into their design. After that, the third component is community review. There will be at least one neighborhood meeting and perhaps more. Give the neighbors a chance to review the project, provide input, and maybe suggest some changes. The next step would be the Planning and Zoning Commission. They would hold at least one hearing and maybe more, and could refer the project to the Design Review Committee if they have concerns for the aesthetics. And then it's on to City Council for final action. Conditions, stipulations, and changes can be made along the way, which can make the project more acceptable. The second question, what is the long-term projection for multifamily? It seems like we've seen a lot of multifamily in our community under construction lately. The city is approaching build-out, so that is driving more demand for density. Studies also show increasing demand for multifamily due to conditions such as senior downsizing, millennial lifestyle, other preferences like lock and leave, or increases in home values and prices. Multifamily facilities also offer some amenities like event facilities, fitness centers, and other amenities in addition to the traditional pools and a barbecue that we may have seen in older multifamily. The latest data we have on single family to multifamily ratio in Chandler is 77% single family to 23% multifamily, which is the third lowest in the major valley cities. In the past 3 years, about 2,500 multifamily units have been completed as compared to a little over 2,000 single family in the same period. We project a range of about 4,100 to 13,100 additional multifamily units to build out. That's quite a range, but the lower range, end of the range, is based on current vacant and undeveloped properties that are suitable for multifamily development. The higher end of the range is derived from potential redevelopment of some properties in the Arizona Avenue corridor north of Pecos. About 63% to 88% of these, depending on the range, would be in the infill district, which I mentioned is north of Pecos and east of the 101. There's a quick overview of any multifamily. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Derek. Council, any questions or comments? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another area that we've received a lot of questions has to do with our downtown. There's a lot of exciting things going on in downtown right now, so we want to ask Kim Moyers, our Downtown Redevelopment Manager, to give us an update on what is under construction as well as what is planned for our downtown area. Kim Moyers.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to talk about the downtown. Our newest development to open in the downtown is the Overstreet project, which brought Arizona's first Flicks Brewhouse Cinema. Just last week, LGE announced that all 17,000 square feet of the second floor office was leased and will be made public very soon. We will also see the first floor retail space opening with Over Easy and other soon to be announced restaurants. The largest project under construction in the downtown is the area directly across the street from City Hall, often referred to as Site 6. The first phase of this mixed-use development project, named New Square, consists of a 3-story, 50,000 square foot office building, an 8,700 square foot retail building, a 109-bed Hilton Garden Inn, and includes an outdoor space area that will hold up to almost 1,000 people for events. We'll also see DC Heights, the empty lots right behind Santan Brewery, get started by late 2019. And this will bring an additional 157 multifamily units into our downtown. And last, we also have several adaptive reuse projects under construction throughout our entertainment district, including the very soon-to-open Civic Market, the Sleepy Whale, the Hidden House, and Gadzooks.
Kim, could you also talk about a little further south? I know we completed that road and it looks beautiful, Arizona Avenue between Pecos and Fry. And what are we seeing along that stretch?
Arizona Avenue, from Pecos to Fry, was recently redone to put wider sidewalks, to make more pedestrian features throughout that area for redevelopment. We are seeing a great deal of developers looking into that area, taking those older buildings and rehabbing them to different uses. We've recently seen Faith Life open up, and we have several additional projects that are coming up in 2019, 2020 to continue to see that redevelopment efforts come to fruition.
One more question related to downtown is everyone's favorite topic. Talk to us about parking.
Absolutely. Between 2018 and 2019, the City of Chandler will bring another 1,280 parking spaces into the downtown, and even more importantly, to the west side of Arizona Avenue, where the majority of our restaurants and retail is located. The 350-car parking garage Overstreet opened in 2018 and has quickly became one of the most frequented parking garages that we have. The Oregon Street parking garage, located to the west of New Square, is currently under construction and should be completed by the end of November 2019. This 930-stall parking garage will be our largest parking garage and will have the ability to convert into ground-level retail into the future. While these projects have been under construction, we also launched the Wave Shuttle service, which picks up visitors from any of the 4 existing parking garages and takes them to their downtown destination of choice, all free of charge. This service runs Thursday through Saturday nights from 5 to 9 p.m. We've also added additional signage throughout the downtown, directing residents to those 4 parking garages, and as always, all of our parking in downtown is free.
Very good. Thank you, Kim. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Kim, great presentation. And I really like what downtown is starting to look like and starting to become. It's kind of the combination of hip and historic.
Some would call it historic.
But yeah, but my question is, can you talk a little bit about the opportunity zones, where that is, and has that really sparked that federal program? Has that really sparked some investment in the downtown market?
The opportunity zone is larger than the downtown, but it does encumber the entire downtown area from Chandler Boulevard all the way down to Fry. And it most certainly is spurring interest with the opportunity zone. As the opportunity zone continues to evolve into a program, I think people are still out there, they're interested in what it's becoming. But most certainly that's one of the #1 questions I receive now is, are there properties available within the opportunity zone?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, if we could have Dawn Lang come back up and give us an overview of our operations budget and capital improvement plan. Dawn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council and citizens once again. Happy to be back. Okay, so I'm going to take you back almost 40 years to 1980. Chandler was farming and dairy. It was a beautiful community, but a population of only 23,500 people. Today, we're at over 250,000 in population. As the vision of the community has changed, Chandler citizens desire additional services to be provided. We're a diverse community with both population and industries. Chandler has had great leadership through the years and currently, and provided a strong vision for the community. Strong financial planning and maintaining strong financial policies through the years have kept us financially sound. All of that helps because we keep strong reserves and helps with our AAA bond ratings, which we are with all 3 rating agencies. So Chandler's budget, what is our budget? What is it? It's a financial operations and capital spending plan for the community, and it reflects citizens' needs through Mayor and Council's vision. That's very important. Obviously, the citizens' voice in the process is extremely important to all of us. We get a variety of revenues that come into the city, as well as the need, many expenses in regards to the services we provide. We are a service organization, and anyone out in the community will often see our folks out there working in the community, making sure that Chandler's a quality place to live. But one thing that's very different with a municipal budget versus federal level, our revenues and expenditures have to balance. They have to equal one another. So many times, if the revenues fall short in any given year, budgeting involves making choices. It really involves making sure we understand the priorities of citizens. It involves decision making. Sometimes hard decisions have to be made on depending on what's happening with the economy and as we move through the budget process and planning for the new year. So I want to talk a moment where the money comes from, and then we'll address where the money goes. This is a view of all the monies that come into the city of Chandler. It does represent all the funds, and the largest fund, being the general fund, is our largest operating fund, but we also maintain a lot of different funds, such as the enterprise funds. Enterprise funds are required to be self-supporting. Those represent your water rates that you pay, wastewater, solid waste, or reclaimed water. The rates are set based on the needs of the infrastructure and operations of all of those enterprises. This is a nice total here. The gray portion represents those utility charges I just spoke of. Those are the monies that come in off your utility bills. But we also receive many other revenues that are maintained in different funds depending on the restrictions. The general fund being general operations can be used for majority being, which you'll see in just a moment, we'll talk about where it goes, but our largest funding source there is the local sales tax and license fees. Whenever you shop in Chandler, you want to shop local, those monies directly come back to the city and help fund the services that are provided. We also receive a portion of state shared revenue that represents that maroon slice there of the, I guess, of the donut. We also have a small portion that goes in that is our property taxes, and a portion of that can go towards general operations, and another portion of that goes towards the debt service on the bonds that fund our infrastructure needs. Finally, where does the money go? All that money that comes into the city, we have a lot of different needs, and this is a representation of all funds again, but it also shows operating and capital needs. So it gives a nice representation of where the money is placed throughout all the funds in the city. I'll point out a couple here. If you look at the orange slice, 4.2, the darker orange, that would be our fire department. Should have had that as red, I would think. And then we also have the police department in yellow at 8.7%. Public Works and Utilities is a combination of all of our streets and transportation, as well as the utilities of water, wastewater, solid waste, and reclaimed. That is also a very large share of where the money goes at 11.1. On the left side of this circle, you'll see a large black portion, and that is the major capital. That is our, in 1819, this represents the current year, all the funds that are being used for our capital projects in the city of Chandler. We also are required, based on our financial policies that help us maintain the AAA bond rating, to keep healthy reserves, and that maroon portion of the pie shows what is set aside as reserves at 15.5%. If those reserves are not spent or not needed in any given year, they just simply go back into the fund and get reappropriated in the following year. So this slide shows the estimated annual cost of service across the valley. This is a study that's done every year by the city of Tempe. These are the results from July of 2018. So the average annual cost of services across the valley is about $1,937 annually. That includes the costs estimated for property tax in a family of four, sales tax, water, wastewater, and solid waste services. You'll note here on the slide that Chandler is second lowest in the valley compared to all the other cities. And this is a point in time of July 2018. Of course, they're going to be working on the next annual cost of service study, and we fully anticipate to be in the first spot at that point because of other cities having changes in rates. Okay, good point to make on that is that Mayor and Council continues to ensure that we are providing quality services at a low cost. So just to talk a moment about the capital improvement project and how that relates to the overall budget. The CIP is a 10-year plan that identifies the timing and funding sources for larger projects. The first year of our capital improvement plan becomes part of the annual budget, and the other 9 years are a planning tool to provide information about what is coming in the future to our citizens. Of course, a lot of input comes from citizens through both the survey and continual contact with citizens throughout the year, and many of our businesses as well. We're still developing the new year, but we've listed a few major projects on this slide just to give us all an idea of the projects included in the CIP. Capital infrastructure maintenance and repair is always a focus. We have arterial streets that we're working on a 20-year plan, and we're really coming close to completing that 20-year plan in this 10-year CIP. The downtown parking garage and development across the street is happening as right now, and the Joint Water Public Safety Training Facility Phase 2, as well as many park improvements. Now, we are in the process currently of updating next year's 10-year plan, and here's just a brief list of some of the things that are being considered, again, taking into account many of the comments through the budget survey and information we've received from citizens and businesses throughout the year. I would like to note that although Chandler isn't as old of a community as many you'd see in the Midwest or East Coast, we are aging, and maintenance of our infrastructure is becoming more and more a focus for us, and that is something that we will continue to look at and make sure that there is capital improvement dollars in our plan to ensure that Chandler remains a quality, beautiful place to live and work. And finally, the key FY20 or fiscal year 2019-20 budget dates are listed on this slide. We've done many actions so far, including the budget survey we spoke of. There's been a budget kickoff with Mayor and Council, and of course tonight's Budget Connect. But there is 2 budget workshops we hold with Council. That is really the next major event in the calendar. And then the all-day budget briefing where all the department directors will get up and talk about any needs that have been brought forward, both operating and capital, and have opportunity for communication between both Mayor and Council and our departments. Then numerous council meetings that will take place that have opportunity for public input as well, up to our final adoption and adoption of the tax levy by June 27th. All I have, Mayor and Council, unless you have any questions.
Thank you, Dawn.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? All right. So we're going to go back to some discussion of questions that were asked in our survey that came up. Here's one. It's so hard to get out of my subdivision onto the arterial road. What are decision factors when determining the need for a traffic signal and the timing traffic signal? So if John Knutson, our Public Works and Utility Director, could come up, please answer this question for us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. That is a great question, and it's a question we've been getting asked a lot lately. If you drive around Chandler, you'll notice that traffic is getting busier and busier as we reach build-out. I'd like to discuss just for a moment a couple of misconceptions about traffic signals. Traffic signals don't always decrease the delay at a residential street coming onto an arterial, and they don't always increase safety. So those are 2 key things that we need to remember when we talk about traffic signals. The purpose of a traffic signal truly is to optimize the traffic in not only from the residential street onto the arterial, but actually for that entire corridor. So traffic signals are very important to us. Our city staff does a fantastic job. They are out continuously through the year doing studies at non-signalized intersections. They typically will do these studies on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and only on days when school is in session. So we often will get asked, well, you did that study in the summertime and the traffic wasn't the same as it is normally. But we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during school time only, which is a great thing. So what they look at are turning movements and traffic volumes at a particular intersection, an unsignalized intersection. They take that information back, they review it, and they determine if the warrants are met or are the criteria is met for an 8-hour period of the 24 hours. And that's 8 hours of 24. It's not 8 continuous hours. And when the warrants or the criteria is met for that 8 of the 24, that is when plans begin for a traffic signal. I hope that answers your question.
It does. Councilmember Lopez.
Thank you, Mayor. So my understanding also is that there's, we've gotten also some questions, I don't know if this is coming up, but so we have cameras on all of our traffic lights also. And can you give a little background on what those are used for and again, how that kind of builds into Chandler's future and smart city programming around traffic?
Thank you. Through the mayor, Councilmember Lopez. The traffic management center, traffic center that we have downtown is a great place. We have monitored there every signalized intersection in the city. We not only have cameras, but they're actually smart cameras. And what they do is they're able to, on the fly, manipulate the cycles during, the phase during a particular cycle of a traffic signal cycle as it rotates between the colors. The important thing is if you have heavy traffic in a left turn lane, it can extend the time for a left turn, but it will reduce the time in one of the other cycles. And the idea behind that is we have a coordinated traffic system between our intersections as we travel along, and the importance of keeping each of the cycles the same between the intersections is very important to us. Otherwise, as you travel through Chandler, you'll be getting red light after red light after red light. So we have a smart system, and that smart system relies on those cameras to modify the lights according to the demands that it sees at the particular intersection at the time. In the future, we're actually installing a new set of cameras. We're phasing in a new set of cameras that are actually even better than the ones we've had previously. And they'll actually be able to look at and see bicyclists and pedestrians. And so they'll be able to see those sorts of things as well and react. So we're moving forward in these things, and who knows what the future holds.
That's great. So that's why sometimes at an intersection, you will not get a green arrow because there may not be cars waiting to turn left. And then if there are cars there, then it will activate. So sometimes the question comes up is, are we always forcing a green arrow when there aren't cars? But with these smart cameras, we are being smart about it, right? So.
The more I learn about it every day, the more amazed I am. But the smart cameras are an amazing feature that Chandler uses. Other cities do as well. But I think we're kind of on the leading edge of that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And John, another question. You had to shift hats with this one, but it's also under your purview. We in Chandler, I think we had 2.5 inches of rain this last week, while up in the high country, several feet of rain. How does that affect our water resources?
Thank you, Mayor. Another great question. As we are in the valley, we see the rain clouds, and we think all of the drought is gone. Let me tell you the reality of Chandler's water resources. We have a very robust water resource. 30% of our water resource is reliant on the Colorado River. 70% of our water resource is reliant on the Salt River Project system, which is both the Salt River and the Verde rivers that come to a confluence at the Granite Reef Dam. On the Colorado River, which again is 30%, the hydrology of that whole system is not really dictated by the weather that occurs in Arizona. The weather in what we call the upper basin states, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and New Mexico, is what really dictates how much water comes into Lake Powell, and therefore what comes into Lake Mead and is available to Arizona. So again, only 30% of Chandler's water. The great thing is we have about 70% of our water supply is the Salt River system. The Salt River system did very, very well these past few weeks. The Salt River system on the Verde side, which is more central Arizona, received so much water that they are now releasing water from those smaller dams, Bartlett and down that direction. So you'll begin to hear about water releases into the Salt River because those dams are undersized for the rain they received. The, I guess, cautious news is that Roosevelt Lake is still at about 50% of capacity, and this 50% means we still have a need for extra water. We would love to get a huge storm on the Roosevelt side to fill Roosevelt up. But the bottom line with Chandler is our water resources are strong and we have adequate water to take us to build out.
All right. Thank you. I have a niece that sent me a picture from their house in the mountains outside of Telluride, and they had like 8 feet of snow in one storm. So maybe that'll work our way into the Colorado River. So our next question, I'd like to invite Matt Burdick to come on up. And the question being asked is, what is Chandler doing, the city, to stay digitally connected to our citizens?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor, council members. So a few things that we have in addition to tonight's forum. We've launched a new website last year, has a lot of different features and functionality. It's mobile responsive, so you can see based on tablet, different mobile devices. Our social media hub is one of the tools that we have in place. It allows people, whether or not they have social media accounts, to see what the city is putting out on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and use that information directly from our chandleraz.gov website. We also use mobile apps pretty extensively. It's a way for residents to report everything from an issue in a park that they feel that we need to address, to graffiti, to streetlights, to other maintenance issues that might be going on around the city. It's GPS located, so when you snap a photo and enter that into the app, we know exactly what location to go and address that issue. We use Nextdoor very extensively to communicate with our neighborhoods around the community. The police department launched a open data portal. It has a lot of information about police activities and crime statistics, and I'll defer that to the police chief if there's further questions on the specifics of that. We also do a lot of live streaming on YouTube and Facebook, including city council meetings, planning and zoning commission meetings. Tonight's meeting is being streamed on YouTube and Facebook. And this year, actually last year in 2018, Chandler Library launched its new app, which has a lot of cool features and functionality that allows people to use the resources that are available through the library directly through the app. They also have seen tremendous growth in the amount of electronic book usage. We also do a lot of videos and convey information, newsworthy information to our community. And we've also launched the Love Chandler campaign, where we encourage people to tell us what they love about their community. Future offerings that are coming, we're going to be soon launching blogs on chandleraz.gov as a way to share information with the community. We're also going to be working in the near future, probably sometime in either later this year or in 2020, to do a mobile app update. And we're also continuing to encourage residents to utilize digital services to receive their utility bill, as well as the City Scope newsletter that is distributed along with your utility bills.
Great. Okay. Council, any questions? All right. Thank you,
Mayor.
I'd like to invite Micah Miranda to come up. We've had a couple responses on social media in the time that we've been here. So here's a question from Bruce on Facebook. Hello, Bruce, if you're watching. Is it under consideration to have the traffic lights communicate with autonomous vehicles? That's the first question.
Mayor, Council, that's a really good question. It's one thing we're really taking a hard look at from a smart cities perspective. With any new technology that's rolled out, city staff evaluates it against a couple of different metrics. And the first metric is efficiency. Does this new technology provide efficiency to the city of Chandler and our residents? The second thing we look at it from is, does it provide an operational savings to the city of Chandler and a strong return on investment to the city of Chandler residents and taxpayers? And then the third one is, does this add to our brand as the innovation and technology hub of the Southwest? So those are the buckets we like to try and put the different benefits in. So as this technology comes out, we look at it. Vendors are constantly working with the city, but at this time, there's no specific things around autonomous vehicle connectivity to cameras. However, just this past week, we were at an autonomous vehicle conference promoting Chandler as a destination for this type of technology and other smart cities applications.
Okay, thank you. And while you're up here, do you have anything else you'd like to say just about our smart city initiatives? I know it's a buzzword in some communities, but it's also obviously the path to the future.
Mayor, council members, there's a lot of new initiatives coming out. The city has always been more on the progressive side. On the transportation connectivity side, John and his team is constantly investing in that technology. We've had some recent rollouts this past year with new ways that our citizens and businesses can connect with the city through mobile applications. And the rollout through the eCab, where residents can hail a ride through our downtown circulator, is some of those smart city solutions that are solving real life problems. But as those technologies come forward, we're constantly evaluating and looking for things to bring forward to City Council. We have a couple of things that are currently under evaluation, and we look forward to discussing with you in the future.
Thank you. All right. To those of you who are trickling into our council meeting tonight, this is a pre-online budget session. So our Budget Connect with which people are responding and watching to us online. So you're welcome and glad to see you in the remaining minutes that we have of this session. So I'm going to address the final question that we have before us, which has to do with how can I get involved in city programs and initiatives? Oh, I take it back. Before I get to that, we're having some fresh questions that are being asked right now. Let's go back to those. We had a number of questions about adding bike routes, the status of high-capacity transit, and plans for bike lanes. So I don't know whether, Ryan Peters, if you could please come up and address that for us, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this exciting time when we're currently undergoing our Transportation Master Plan update, and which has the goal of providing us with an efficient, sustainable, multimodal transportation system that provides Chandler residents with the mobility choices that were referenced with that question. So I'll start with that. The plan update will analyze existing and future traffic and safety conditions on Chandler's roadways and will recommend improvements to increase capacity where needed. We'll also have a bike and pedestrian component that will continue to build out the bike lane network, but we'll also look for opportunities to increase low-stress biking options that separate bikes from high-speed automobiles. The transit component will make recommendations for bus service that will also consider how new technologies such as ride-sharing, self-driving vehicles, and demand-responsive microtransit can create a more effective public transportation system. The master plan is scheduled to be completed in late 2019. I would invite Chandler residents to visit www.keepchandlermoving.com to provide their input through the end of the year. Specifically to the other high-capacity transit activities taking place in Chandler, the city is currently working on a study with Valley Metro to assess the potential for high-capacity transit on Arizona Avenue. All transit modes are being evaluated for what would be most appropriate for the corridor. This is a 2-year study that will likely be concluded in 2020. I also want to note recent bus routes that the city added in its effort to build the network. We added a route on Ray Road in October of 2017. The city also enhanced service on Arizona Avenue by providing 15-minute all-day bus frequency. The city is also looking into options to provide transit to Price Corridor. and regional funds are programmed to extend the Arizona Avenue bus route south of Arizona Avenue south on Arizona Avenue to Ocotillo Road in 2024. Regarding bike lanes, we are finalizing design on a project that will add lanes on McClintock Drive from Loop 202 to a half-mile north of Ray. This and new lanes on Kyrene Road from Chandler Boulevard to a quarter-mile north of Ray Road will also add connectivity to existing bike lanes in the area. This project is programmed for construction in fiscal year 2019 and 20. Finally, we're finalizing design and plan to construct in the next fiscal year a small project on the Western Canal, 1/2 mile east of Arizona Avenue. That will extend the shared use paths across the Union Pacific Railroad tracks and add safety measures to the rail crossing.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Peters. If I could call Kim Moyer back up. We had a comment that showed up on Nextdoor about the Overstreet Development, Flick's Brew House, and the electronic billboard. Do the signs fall within city code, and do we have any say on what is advertised there?
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to address that. The billboard was approved through the Overstreet rezoning process before they got started. Through the development agreement that we have with LGE Design Build, there were certain prohibitions that for any inappropriate advertising that cannot be put on the billboards. In addition to that, the city was also allotted specific advertising opportunities for any city-sponsored special events, promotions, and initiatives.
Okay, thank you. So, Council, we might have one or two more pop up, but we'll continue on. I wanted to answer a question that did come in. How can I get involved in city programs and initiatives? It's a good question, and I've noticed particularly, maybe because I'm the brand new mayor and I need a lot of help, people ask me that question all the time, is what can I do to help? So number one, thank you for asking the question. We've got a lot of opportunities that we would be able to address that with. Number one, participating in forums like this and giving us your opinion. We, as council, are an extension of our community, which also reflects what are the needs and desires of our community. So communicate with us. Let us know what you see. Let us know not only desires that you have for the city, but you are also the eyes and ears for our police department, for our neighborhood services department, of what's going on in neighborhoods. And you're a tremendous asset of helping us continue to be a safe and clean city. We also have opportunities to apply for boards and commissions. We're going to be looking at these in the month of March, and actually in the month of April will be the time frame that we'll be seeing what vacancies are available with our existing boards and commissions. And so I encourage you, if you've not applied within the last 2 years and would like to serve on a board or commission, please consider doing so. And you can just Google Chandler Boards and Commissions, and it'll take you to the appropriate place. We always have opportunities to volunteer with our police department, with our fire department, with our libraries, with our neighborhood services within the city. There's a number of special events, whether it's for our city day or back to school day or other community events that the city as well as nonprofits are involved with. We have park events. We have events even coming up like the Ostrich Festival that the Chamber of Commerce would love to have volunteers. So there's so many opportunities that I'm sure we can find a place for you and for your time, for your talents in order to be involved. We thank you for asking, and I do hope that each and every person watching this will consider getting involved in our community. So thank you. So we're going to go into our closing comments, and I'll start. I want to thank everyone who did watch, who participated, the 995 that participated in our budget survey. We do appreciate the participation and engagement of so many from our community and our staff. If you have additional questions, please continue to fire those into the city. Staff will be answering all the questions that we couldn't get to over the next week. Your participation in this event helps keeping our community headed into a positive direction. So at this time, I'd like to invite our council members to also offer some closing comments. Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Great presentations today, and I'm Facebook Living right now, so we have a watch party going on. Leslie McCoy asked if this will be on video later. She missed the first 10 minutes. Will we have another? Will it be live on Facebook on our page? Yeah, so you'll be able to watch it again. Leslie, thank you again for all the presentations. Exciting to hear that we have some financial abilities to start building and just to continue to grow our park system. I'm really excited about the things that are going on with the autonomous vehicles and the way that staff is handling the budget. It's important to remember that unlike our federal government, we have to live by a budget. So we have to have money in the bank in order to pay for things. We can't just print money as we need it to stave off anything. We have to actually have the money and we have to budget for it. So I know that our staff does a fantastic job of making sure that we have money for the important projects like roads and for new water systems and things like that, so that we can look down the road 15, 20, 25 years from now and still be a viable city and still provide those services. So great job. And I'll pass that to the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The awesome times. The budget is a beast. It's 18, 19, a whole year, an army of 1,700 employees working around the clock to deliver, almost $1 billion budget. And what I love about where we're at is where there's a disconnect on a state and federal level, you can really touch and feel this budget and interact with everybody, mayor, council, and city, and really interject where we can make positive impact that will actually enhance the quality of life. And I'm excited to work with this team because I know top down, everybody's excited to deliver a budget and enhance our quality of life, but do so in a fiscally responsible way. And so if you have any ideas, please share with the city staff. And if you see us out and about, please share with us as well, because we are listening. That's all I got.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to reiterate the great job that staff has done, and Dawn and her team, as far as this is like one of the most important things that we do. Thank you to the mayor and the council for kind of holding the line, trying to make sure that our budget, that we do color inside the lines, and that we manage our finance. And staff, we hear the stories about you sitting around the table, and while you have to take care of your particular area, you kind of look out for each other a little bit and trade some of, when you're negotiating who needs what and that sort of thing. And so I'm sure some of those discussions aren't always that easy. But I'm proud of you all for working together. It's awesome. Our budget survey, the one thing I would like to see, and I don't know how that could work out, but I'd like to see that in some way we could start asking the questions and ask them all year round, and just be getting feedback, and wherever we can do that, whether that's for our water bill or whatever. But anyway, great job, and thank you all for tuning in tonight and caring about our community.
Councilmember Rowe, by the questions that we get all year round, I'd say that that's happening. So thank you. Councilmember Huang.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say I'm very happy that I participate and working with this council. And also, this is the third year I have been here. I think I learned a lot. Of course, I will keep learning. And I'm very happy that Chandler is, we experienced rapid growth for the past 3 decades before I came here. And it looks like our city is still growing. We are still rising. Nothing is gets flat or fall down. So we will. I'm seeing that in the future, as we facing the build out, as our population keep growing, we have more challenges in the future. But fortunately, we have very strong middle class resident base, and our safety. We are also one of the safest city in the United States. So for also our economic, with this council and our staff keep working to attract good business to come to our city. And I think the economic opportunities and quality of life has been good and will continue to be good. So just like to thank all the council, and you have been helping me, and especially our new mayor has been my tutor all the way. Okay, I'm pretty excited this year to work with everybody, and I'm very optimistic for the future. So thank you very much, and please, not yet, and please keep be our eye and ear, because we are just one individual, just like you, just like everybody. Please don't be hesitant to get involved. Don't be hesitant to write to the council, so we can work together to make this city an even better place. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
So other than saying ditto 5 times, I'll just exhibit my appreciation for, again, all the citizens out there that provided their input on the survey, that are watching right now and or will be watching in the future. And also thank you to the staff, great presentation, again, addressing the concerns of our citizens, and again, keeping the city on a great track. Thank you.
Councilmember Orlando.
Nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Council, it's 5:58. Why don't we take about a 4-minute break? Then we will start our council meeting. Meeting adjourned.
So moved.
Make it jam all night. Mighty fine, good old time. We know how to live this life. I got Carolina in my bones, ragtop hill to old South Toe. I will always call this my home sweet home.
Could be living in a dream. Feel the world inside our feet, and our hearts in the right place. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day. Sun above, sky is golden. We run free like a river, carried away in the moment. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day. I never knew magic like this. The clouds have fallen to the sea, and I never knew happiness like this. Now I breathe easy. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day. Time quietly slips away, a perfect day.
Reach for me. Don't wanna wait another day without you. Take me to higher ground. We'll be safe and sound. Reach for me. Should have known right away when it felt too good to be true. 'Cause you never said what you mean to say. So anyway, you look at it, I'm confused. If you can't see where this is gonna lead, reach for me. Don't wanna wait another day without you. Take me to higher ground. Come on, reach for me. I can't wait another day without you. Take me to higher ground. We'll be safe and sound. Reach for me. Reach for me. Got it all figured out. You decide what's best for you. 'Cause you built me up, so don't let me down. I can't make you do.
First part of our meeting tonight is our roll call.
Mayor Hartke,
Here.
Vice Mayor Rowe,
Here.
Councilmember Stewart,
Here.
Councilmember McClymons,
Here.
Councilmember Wong,
Yeah.
Councilmember Lopez,
Here.
Councilmember Orlando.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Our invocation tonight is going to be given by Pastor J.C. Basinger. And if Councilmember Huang, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards.
I want to thank you guys for the work that you do, the men and women that are passionate about this city. It's flourishing. It's a great place to work and a great place to live. With that, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for the leaders that you appoint for us. Lord, we thank you for the work that you're doing in the city of Chandler through these leaders. That it's a place that's flourishing, a wonderful place to work, a wonderful place to live. Lord, I do ask that you would use their time tonight, that you would give them wisdom as they make decisions about the future of this great city, a city that you care about. We pray this in the name of Jesus Christ, the Lord and King of all creation. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Basinger and Councilmember Huang. Tonight at our council, we've got a consent agenda, a series of public hearings, and then one action item with comments at the end of these. So our first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. We had a chance to review this on Monday. Council, what is your pleasure?
Mayor.
Councilmember Orlando.
I move that we approve the consent agenda dated February 28, 2019.
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Rowe. Is there any discussion or comments? All right. Seeing none, Council, would you please vote the motion?
Motion carries unanimously.
Very good. Thank you. So the next items on our agenda are a series of public hearings, and the first item here is, wait a second, I got to move a little further in my agenda. We have an annexation of approximately 2.84 acres located at the southeast corner of Pecos and McQueen Roads. So with our, did I miss one?
At the mayor's discretion, he could change anything he wants to change, Mayor.
Thank you. Let me go back one. Thank you, Councilmember Lopez. So our first hearing is modified system development fees. So as we open our public hearing, I'd like to invite Dawn Lang to come up for this presentation. Or Dawn,
Mayor?
actually, Dawn, you're going to be introducing somebody else.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Mayor and Council, I'd like to ask Julie Bilt to come forward to present on system development fees.
Evening, Mayor and members of the Council. Tonight we're having our public hearing on the system development fees themselves. I've been here a couple times, had a couple things on the agenda lately. We had a public hearing back on December 13th on the land use assumptions and infrastructure improvements plan. We adopted those on January 24th, so now we're doing our public hearing on the fees themselves. So our topics we're going to cover tonight are the background of system development fees, the other program requirements surrounding the totality of system development fee program in the city, the fees by category, and then we're going to walk through some fee examples of what specific types of land users would incur when they come and pull a permit in the city, and then finally our project timeline. So just a little bit about the background. It's a process governed by state statute. We've been charging system development fees for about 22 years now in Chandler. We charge the full complement of fees, and we're one of the first cities to do so. Developers pay their system development fees when they come in to pull their building permits. And so it's meant to cover one-time funding for growth-related capital projects. We cannot use this revenue for repairs or for operations or maintenance, and we cannot use it to fund capital projects that only serve existing residents. It has to be for growth-related capital. The program requirements we've already met. Each year we have to publish an annual system development fee activity report. We have to do that within 90 days of our fiscal year end. We've done that for this year. We have to adopt land use assumptions and infrastructure improvement plans and update them every 5 years. That's what we did last month, January 24th. And that report, which is attached to your agenda item tonight, also includes the fee schedule within it that we'll be discussing tonight. So the fees are based on the land use assumptions and infrastructure improvements plan that we've already approved. The third piece of our requirements is to have a biennial audit. The city just had theirs completed recently, and we're going through the results, and we'll be presenting those to council on April 25th, coming up in a couple months. So what kind of fees do we charge in Chandler? We charge some fees either by equivalent dwelling unit for our residential customers, single family, multifamily, or we charge by square foot for our non-residential customers for arterial streets, parks, library, fire, police, and public buildings. If you notice, the final 4 categories have an asterisk by them. There's no new capital projects. We're only collecting those fees to repay ourselves either loans we've made or bonded debt that we have issued to pay for those projects because we didn't have enough cash on hand. We charge some fees, the utility fees on the right-hand side, by meter size. And if you note too, the projects without an asterisk, arterial streets is the only category that has projects that go farther than the 10 years covered by our report. So we're getting to the end of our life cycle with all of these fee categories. And so you'll note now that we're going to move into some specific examples of the fees, most of them are going down. We're not adding more costs on. The costs are staying the same. And with our general plan update and some of the higher densities we're seeing in our land use assumptions, we have more people to spread it across. So it makes sense with the math that our fees by and large are going down. If you'll note on their arterial streets, there is one category that is going up percentage change wise, and that is because there's a new ITE trip generation manual. That gets updated about every 5 years. There's a new manual, edition 10, that just came out in 2017, and these are national trip statistic data. It's not based on our local experience. There's nothing we do that impacts this. We use this to be consistent with prior updates and to be consistent with other cities that use this same data as well. And so it does show, as you'll see later when we go through some fee examples that there will be a slight increase for retail users in general, but it's mitigated by other decreases in other categories. And with any fee category that does go up, there's a portion of the statute that calls for a 24-month moratorium on increases if you have a final plat in place. So any user that already has a project in place gets the benefit of fee decreases, but if there's an increase on any portion of the fees, they won't pay that for the 24-month period that is in effect after they finalize their development with the city. Moving forward to parks, we have 3 different service areas. The parks will be completed within our 10-year plan that we have.
Councilmember Orlando.
Mayor, can we go back a slide? I got a couple of questions here I wanted before we move on to individual ones. So why did the retail go up?
It's just based on the trip generation data that's collected by this engineering manual. So we don't have any thing that influences that. It's a national manual that's used.
So let me go back to the biennial audit. What does that tell us?
The biennial audit is done by our CPA firm, Heinfeld Meach, and that's a look at how are we performing in our land use assumptions based on what we're assuming in the report. The report only gets updated every 5 years, and development can happen in chunks. It doesn't always happen the same amount of square footage or EDUs every year. And so we see how we're performing against that. We also make sure that nothing has been spent that's not allowed to be spent in the audit.
Okay.
And so finally, there were no findings in the audit. And you'll see that coming forward on April 25th.
Okay, so it's just to check to see what was spent.
Correct.
And are we living up to the agreements? And are we getting the correct? Okay, got it.
It's something that was added into the SB 1525 update, and this will be our second biennial audit that we've gone through as a city.
Got it. Okay, that must be. Is that new, relatively?
Relatively new, yes. We did our first audit. I think it was adopted last year, and it was just the timing of having 2 years of data after the new statute went into place. We had the audit, so now there's been the audit that we just completed covered 16, 17, and 17, 18 fiscal years.
That's why I wasn't familiar with that. Okay, we're good. So the other question I have for you, I understand O&M. I think the general knowledge of O&M is ongoing cost, basically, right? So if we wanted to expand, say, the police laboratory because of growth, why isn't that included in here, or is it?
It can only cover capital costs, not O&M costs. So the cost to operate a lab would never be covered.
No, I mean, if we outgrow our lab, current lab today, I'm just using an example. We outgrow the current lab today, and we have to build a brand new one because we just outgrown it because of growth. How is that calculated in this, or is it?
Our consultant would have to look at that, make sure that that qualified under the necessary, they call it now necessary categories of public service, and it's specifically prescribed in the state statute what you can charge for and what you cannot charge for.
So I like to take a look at that because I think that's something we should be looking at. The other thing is, if a fire has to expand a station, again, because growth in another part of the city, can that be looked at as a calculation as well? And would that be included?
It would be. Right now, with the plan we have in place that our consultant reviewed in here, we did not contemplate that we would need any more fire stations.
But if it's we have an area of Chandler, I use that as an example, North Chandler, where we're seeing a higher than normal calls for service, but that is a quote, built out area, but yet we're seeing
It would have to be based on new development and higher densities of more people, not just the same people generating more calls.
So I'd like to take a look at that. If there's, make a second look at those particular areas of a laboratory, because that's a physical construction project. Looking at the fire station, which is a physical construction project that has to be looked at. And if there might be a couple more in there, I don't know, to get a chance to look at that.
The difficulty with doing that now is where we are in the process, which is very tightly defined by state statute. We had to adopt our land use assumptions in IIP by February of 2019, and that's what we're in now. So we adopted it last month. We'd have to go through a whole nother study and pay the money for that to consider changes to that now.
Just for those 2 items?
Yeah.
How long?
Because the statute requires that only qualified professionals can perform the study. We can't, as a staff, just update it.
I know. Well, okay, let's maybe come back with us in a memo what we can do on this issue. It's only 2 items. I was just curious why it would take
So
that
what
long.
we have the ability to do is we don't have to wait 5 years until we change something again. And there is this process that's in the state statute. If we want to amend our IIP rather than adopting another one, we can do that. But it said that what it says in the state statute is something to the effect of the fee would have to change by more than 10%. And so there's prescriptions on what you can do to amend your study instead of having to pay a consultant to do a completely new study. And we
Fair
can
enough.
look at that.
So we could take a look at that, is what you're saying next time. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Proceed.
Okay. So in our parks category, we only charge parks to our residential land uses, so single and multifamily. And we have 3 service areas, and they're basically bounded by our freeways. So our Northwest Park service area is everything in Chandler that's west of the 101 freeway. Northeast is north of the 202 and east of the 101, and southeast is everything south of the 202 and east of the 101. Our library fee is a grandfathered fee. We haven't had any new capital projects, and so at the time that the statute changed for SB 1525, if you have a grandfathered fee that you aren't making any changes to, you don't have to update it. And so we're not contemplating any updates, and you won't have any action on the library fee. We just wanted to include it in here so you'd see what the amount of the fee is. And this is also charged only to residential land uses. Our fire category is decreasing in all the categories. We're now done paying for all of our capital that we've estimated to be growth related. And so we're collecting this to pay our outstanding debt. The same with our police projects. We aren't contemplating any growth related police projects through build out. And so the fees are declining in that category as well.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. One slide back, you talked to, I saw a slide, there's a difference, one more. There was a difference between, in the parks too, but multifamily and single family.
Right.
Is that per unit in a multifamily, not per building? So if you have 4 apartments in a building, then it's 4 times that?
So they pay, if it's a multifamily building, an apartment complex with 200 units, they would pay the fee on that fee for each one of the units.
So the multifamily that's all coming online are paying a fee that's actually helping build our parks. And okay, great. Thank you.
So public buildings is a fee category that's no longer allowed by state statute. And so we're again including this just for your information. We're not contemplating any changes to the fee. We're just showing you what the fee is. Our water fees are charged to both residential and non-residential customers. We charge this by meter size, and there's meter capacity ratios that apply to all the fees above the single family unit area. And as you can see, they're all declining. And all capital projects are expected to be completed within 10 years in this category. Similar in wastewater, all capital projects are expected to be completed, and all the fee categories are declining. When we get to reclaimed water, there is one fee category that has a slight increase. The reason we're seeing an increase in the multifamily fee for reclaimed water is this fee for multifamily is adjusted by the average daily winter water consumption ratio, and that went up slightly in this update. It's recalculated every 5 years for the update. And so it's a very minor increase of $6. And again, they would have that moratorium if they have a project in place. They wouldn't have to pay the extra $6.
Mayor, Councilmember Orlando.
So reclaim water, if we're getting mandated from the state or federal government, are there's ability to pass on those mandates in accordance with our impact fees?
Not in system development fees. No, we'd have to update that through our user fees.
We have to suck it up. Got it.
We could pass it on in user fees is what she was saying.
User fees, yeah. But
we could develop something like a drought surcharge, something like that.
Right. Okay, got it. Thanks, Mayor. Thank you.
So now we're going to go through our specific examples on what happens when someone comes in to pull a permit. For a single family, currently they're paying $20,329 per single family residence. And then all of these examples that have parks as part of them are using the highest park area, just to show what would be the maximum amount they'd pay and then comparatively. So with our modified fees, the fees will go down 26% and they will pay $14,981 per residence instead. For multifamily, they're currently paying $10,651 per unit. Again, this is the highest park area, and that will go down 26% as well to be $7,927. Our retail example and our non-residential examples are all based on 100,000 square feet and a 2-inch meter. We picked 100,000 not because that's what retail typically is. We just did it for ease of the calculations and comparison of all the categories. And most do have a 2-inch meter, but some will have larger in some of these categories. But just for consistency, we use this. And recall that for retail and the ones following, we won't be charging parks and library. Those are only charged to residential. So our total we currently charge is $603,576, and it will go up 2% if you recall, because the arterial street category is changing. And so it's mitigated by other decreases in the other fee categories, but it will go up to $617,064 for 100,000 square feet. Our office example currently is paying $595,576. Their fees will go down 15% overall to $509,064. Industrial, which would be like a warehouse, something that there's not really customers going to, but there's things stored there that are inventory related, that sort of thing. They would pay $347,576 under our current fees, would go down 45% to $191,064. Our final example of institutional, which would be like hospitals, nursing homes, that sort of build, would be $268,576 under our current fee structure, and decreasing approximately 35% to $175,064. So the rest of our project timeline, we're in the middle tonight conducting our public hearing on the fees. We have to adopt these fees within 60 days of the public hearing. So we'll be coming back in April to introduce a Chapter 38 ordinance. And then at the April 25th meeting, we'll adopt the ordinance. And then we have to wait 75 days by the state statute for the effective date of the new fees. So they will go into effect on Monday, July 15th. With that, I'll entertain any other questions that anyone on council has.
Council, any questions or comments? Councilmember Lopez.
So the changes, like you said, that when they get implemented, but you talked about if they go down, what is the timing on that? So if somebody had already pulled a permit, but they haven't started construction yet, what time does those fees, so they would they delay until after, again, all this is done, so they would be able to save some money if they're along that? Or is that already set when they pulled their permits? How does that get calculated?
When they come in and pay for their permit that day, that's the fee schedule that's in effect. So if they're pulling a permit today, they're going to pay the higher fees that are in effect. If they wait till Monday, July 15th, their fees will go down. And so
depending on, like, retail went up a little bit.
The retail will increase slightly.
But all the rest went
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor. Councilmember Orlando.
Good question. So what are we estimating to, from, if these all impact fees are implemented and the projects mature, what do we estimate as a total revenue stream on that? And what does that compare to the CIP that is allocated for these impact fees?
Well, with the CIP, we always hope that we have the impact fees in cash, that we can pay for it and we don't have to bond fund. But if we are building a particular road or particular park and we don't have enough system development fees on hand, we could either make a loan from our general fund to cover that difference if it's pretty small, or we could issue bonded debt. And so we do always put as a funding source in our CIP the system development fees in the hope that we have enough accumulated to pay for them without having to incur debt.
Got it. So what would the total revenue be if we were to stick with this plan? And
on page 5 of the report, our consultant has done a table of updated and current fee revenue, and his current fees that are the modified fees that we're looking at tonight, he is saying over the next 10 years, we would collect $367 million at the current fees. And with these updated fees that are decreasing, it would go down to just under $245 million.
so 57, you said?
It would be overall a 33% change. But the way the fees are set up, everything would be recouped by build out. So because the fees are going down, obviously revenue would go down if it's based on the same development occurring over 10 years. But the way the fees are set up now, we have to wait till the last person comes in and pulls their permit to get fully paid back on all our debts. So unfortunately, any debts that we've incurred, we can't accelerate payments and get those paid off. We have to wait. And if development comes in sooner than we expect, then that's great, and we might be able to pay off our debt sooner. But the way the statute now requires you to calculate the fees, you have to wait until your last ratepayer comes in to be fully whole on everything.
So you're looking at about 245 million versus the 367 million from previous estimates. Okay, thanks, Mayor.
So we can't charge anyone who doesn't know they're coming to Chandler yet.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Any additional questions from the council? Any questions from the audience? All right. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Dawn. We'll close our public hearing. Now, am I supposed to bang this thing? There, does that feel better? Closure. All right, public hearing number 2, annexation of approximately 2.84 acres located at the southeast corner of Pecos and McQueen Roads. I'd like to open our public hearing and ask Susan Fiala to come up for a staff presentation. Susan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, I'm Susan Fiala, City Planner in the Planning Division. The annexation is approximately 2.84 acres. It is located at the immediate corner of Pecos Road and McQueen Road. And as you see by your memo and as well here in the illustration, if we can go over to that, it is completely surrounded by city land. So this is one of the last remaining parcels in the county. We have commercial uses to the north, to the northwest, and over to the west as well. To the south, we have single-family residential, as well to the east. Across McQueen Road, it is a vacant parcel which is currently undergoing a rezoning for commercial uses. The current property in the county is zoned C2, which is called intermediate commercial. This has been zoned since 1987, so 30 years in the county that it has been slated for commercial uses. We do look at our general plan, which designates the property as neighborhoods. This is in the 2016 general plan, which does allow non-residential uses such as commercial. There are adequate utilities located in both McQueen and Pecos Roads to support any development with that. There is no formal application at this time for development on this site. There has been a pre-technical review, which is just a concept of what the development can look like, which would include some type of commercial retail uses on this property. And we have circulated this to staff. We have no outstanding comments or opposition or anything of concern from the other staff members. And per the revised statutes, this public hearing is being held, and we are following all the Arizona revised statutes for annexation. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? We'll see if anybody else, I'm looking this way first.
I can move over there if you want.
Councilmember Orlando.
Thank you, Mayor. So there's been a lot of discussion on this. Do they want to be in a county and build with their zoning, their permits, their processing? Or do they want to be in the city of Chandler with our boat zoning, permits, and of course impact fees? Or what do they want to do?
With that, thank you through the mayor and council member. And with that, I'm going to move to the side and have our planning administrator, Kevin Mayo, address.
Thank you.
Mayor, Councilmember Orlando. Excellent question. So this came to us through, as Susan mentioned, a pre-tech, kind of our first shot at seeing what is it that they want to do. In the city of Chandler, if there's anything that's in the county, they come in and they want to develop. Probably the most critical thing that they need is our utilities, water and sewer. State statutes requires us to serve that property, and we do that through two fashions. One, let them stay in the county, and we go through a out-of-service utility agreement with them, or we annex them and then serve them utilities through that normal process. We are aware that, at least in the pre-tech that was submitted, was a multi-tenant retail building and a car wash that was shown on that property. As Susan had indicated, it is zone C2 in the county, and that is both of those uses are permitted uses in the county under their current zoning. So
So
if
we're
we,
good, I'm sorry,
oh,
we're
it's okay.
good, we're good the C2 zoning if they do the car wash, correct?
Under the county zoning, they could build a car wash as a permitted land use and the retail building as well. At the time, if it is annexed into the city of Chandler and we establish our like zoning, it would be our C2 community commercial district as well. The car wash and retail buildings are permitted uses in that zoning district. There wouldn't be any other kind of action that would come to council from a land use standpoint, and they could go forth and build according to our development standards if they were annexed and established as C2 zoning. This is a great venue to kind of weigh the benefits, both the applicant would do that
sorry,
process.
Kevin, my ears are clogged. Can you get a little bit closer to the microphone?
Sure, no worries if I can pick it up on the mic. So it's a great process for council and the community to kind of value the pros and cons of annexation or non-annexation. In terms of probably the car wash is the land use that raises the eyebrow. And it is, from a benefit standpoint, one path could be it stays in the county, and we go through the out-of-service water agreement, and there's increased fees for those utilities when they are stayed out of our jurisdiction. There's a slight financial benefit in terms of just those utility charges. On the other side of that coin is if they come into the city, and we work with them on development standards through our C2 standards. There's a benefit to that. The county doesn't have any dissimilar land use buffer in terms of a landscape separation with screen trees that are planted in between dissimilar land uses. As well, the input and influence that they put into site design, location of sensitive things for a car wash, it would be the vacuums, it would be the blower motor assemblies for the drying assemblies. It'd be the coordinate orientation of the building for where the entrance and exits are, the things that truly kind of cause the noise and impacts. County doesn't exercise the level of influence and input that the city of Chandler does. So annexing it brings the benefit that it comes into our city, comes into our jurisdiction for development standards and review. From a land use standpoint, could the car wash be stopped? It's a permitted land use now in the county, and it would be a permitted land use in the city. But we have a much greater degree of influence in the development standards of that car wash in terms of mitigating impacts with the surrounding neighborhoods.
So the bottom line is, I'm hoping he would go with the city, because I would think being a car wash, his largest expense would be water and wastewater. He may save a short term, he may get his vacs where he wants to put them, but in the long term, this individual will probably, from an operation and maintenance standpoint, may want to do his due diligence and make sure he's weighing all options here, right? And the other thing, I guess, in the back of my mind, I would encourage this applicant to come into the city, work with our staff. It will be a better project. It will be a better long-term project, I believe, knowing our history. And I don't want to set precedent. I don't want to have someone in the future say, well, gee, let me go get the permits and working with the county, and then, oh, after a couple of years, I'll go in the city of Chandler. That's not a good message to send to the community. We want you here, we appreciate you being here, but please work within our standards, our guidelines, and you'll get the benefits, obviously, police, fire, and the reduced rates and that they bring. Okay, I got it. So let's encourage them to stay with the city.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council, additional questions? Councilmember.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We've talked a little bit about this, and I'm inclined to support it, but I will tell you that there's been recent discussions about noise coming from projects, industrial projects, and that's not the first discussion that has occurred. And I am always disappointed when somebody comes and stands where you are and looks to us for solutions to that problem after the fact. So I'm going to go with your advice on this and be supportive, however, with the, as long as you know I have that concern about noise and the disturbance of the neighbors. That's all. Thank you.
So the choice before us really is let it stay in the county, or to bring a project that will at least take into consideration some neighbors' views, is to bring it into the city, and then there is the opportunity to address those concerns through the process, barrier, alignment, et cetera.
Mayor, that's about 90% correct. There's the process from annexation would be kind of a single line process. It would bring it into the city, establish in the city initial zoning, and that's about the extent of any kind of public ability for input. After that, it's in an administrative shop and simply measured against our development standards. Thankfully, our development standards are more stringent than the county's, and so it would be, the output would be a product that is more compatible with the adjacent residential versus if it stayed in the county. But the single point of kind of public input is, I guess, is twofold: the public hearing here, and then ultimately the public hearing that adopts the annexation ordinance and a city initial zoning.
Okay.
Mayor.
Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you. So in a nutshell, just so I can understand this, if we annex this into the city, we have a little bit more control to hopefully protect the neighbors to the south. Because I've got my MapQuest, well, I had it pulled up, and there's like 6 houses right there that back right up to that. And we all know that car washes are not quiet. And so it'd be unfortunate. Now, I don't know when this zoning happened. You said in the 80s. I don't know when the neighborhood was built. It looks like from the look of it, it's a little bit later than when it was zoned. So the builder of the neighborhood kind of knew what that was zoned for, but maybe didn't suspect that it would be a car wash. But nevertheless, I would imagine that we'll have our fingers on it a little bit more and be able to work with the developer for that corner to be able to hopefully melt it into the neighborhood, the fabric of the neighborhood a little bit better, to create some buffers, to do some things that can mitigate some of that sound. And is it your expectation that they'll be willing to work with us on something like that?
Have had no conversations with the applicant, other than most developers at this point today that come into the city realize that their patrons are the people that they are kind of folding themselves within. And so we've had good success in working with applicants. This site, it's skinny. It's a narrow, long site. Ultimately, the building's going to need to be sited in an east-west orientation, but there's ways that we can work with them to where the blower assemblies are located, where the vacuum assemblies are located, screen walls that come off of the building for the overhead doors and things like that. All stuff that are kind of tools in our tool belt that we can work with when we get to the construction drawing stage. Right now, it's simply been a pre-tech to this point.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Kevin, one last question. Are we at all able to have some direction on hours of when the car wash is in use? So at least between the hours of 8, 9, or 10 to 5 or 6 in the morning that they would not be operating this?
Mayor, if I may, this is beyond the annexation, and that,
thank you.
Good questions when it comes forward.
Okay. All right. Remind me to ask that question again. Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, any questions from our audience? All right. We'll now close this public hearing. And Susan, you're staying up at the podium for our next, I understand. Our next is an annexation of approximately 9.25 acres located west of the northwest corner of Chandler Heights and Lindsay Roads. Again, Susan Fiala, make your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Yes, this annexation public hearing is a property that is west of the northwest corner there of Chandler Heights and Lindsay Roads. And it is, again, one that is surrounded by city land. There are no remaining county properties around it. To the immediate east, there is an assisted living that is under construction right now. And so again, with this property, we are going to be annexing the appropriate right-of-ways as well to build out the Chandler Heights Road as well as White Place Road. It is zoned currently as RU43, which is a rural residential zoning district in the county, and it would receive comparable zoning in the city, which would be agricultural 1. With that, as well, this property has always been slated for single-family residential. It is in the general plan as neighborhoods as well as the Southeast Chandler area plan. So again, we would be looking at those plans for the design of the subdivision as well as the quality of the housing. There are adequate utilities in Chandler Heights as well as White Place to serve the development as well. We have circulated this to staff. No outstanding comments have been received that indicate it should not be annexed. And as well, per these statutes, we are following the annexation requirements. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions? Councilmember Orlando.
Just to clarify, their intent is to keep this as a residential section, correct? That's the intent.
Through the mayor, yes, Councilmember Orlando. It will be single-family for sale lots that comply.
And then what's the next step on this annexation?
So after this annexation public hearing this evening, the next step will be to obtain signatures from the property owner, and from there you will be again seeing this as an introduction for initial zoning to the AG1.
With that 30 days from now?
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks, Mayor.
Any additional questions from council? Seeing none, any comments or questions from the audience? All right, we'll close this public hearing. Our last public hearing has to do with the proposed El Paso Natural Gas Company, LLC license. I would like to open the public hearing and ask Ryan Peters to come up for staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're going to hear a public hearing regarding the renewal of the El Paso natural gas license. We do periodically have these renewals in place for the facilities that are located in our right-of-way for the public utilities. I'd like to introduce Mr. Dennis Ost, Development Services Administrator for the utility group, to make the presentation.
Mayor and Council, as Ryan mentioned, the purpose of this public hearing is to provide City Council and the public information regarding the right-of-way use license renewal for El Paso Natural Gas as proposed in ordinance number 4865. El Paso Natural Gas Company, or EPNG, has had facilities located in the city of Chandler since 1936. EPNG provides wholesale natural gas to industrial end users that have a need for high volumes of natural gas, as well as to natural gas distribution companies such as Southwest Gas, that then resell that gas to residents and businesses throughout the city of Chandler. Resolution number 3678 was adopted as a 5-year agreement in 2003, and ordinance number 4125 was adopted as a 10-year renewal of the agreement in 2009. This map is a high-level overview of where El Paso Natural Gas currently has facilities installed within the city of Chandler. Most of EPNG's facilities are installed within private easements or within right-of-way of other agencies such as Salt River Project and Union Pacific Railroad. This public hearing and prior public notice is required by state statute section 553 of Title IX. The city published the required notices in the Arizona Republic on Wednesday, February 13th and Wednesday, February 20th of 2019. The calculation shown reflects the annual footage fee of the EPNG footprint of public property reserved for use for 2019, which totals $10,166.23. The company will also pay a $7,093.31 temporary expansion fee for each subsequent permit required for new construction or maintenance of its system. This expansion fee allows for the additional space required for use during the work on their system on an exclusive basis. An annual escalator is applied based on the annual average increase of the previous year's consumer price index in the, for the regional category of all urban west. The company will also pay all applicable city, county, and state transaction privilege and use taxes, as well as all applicable encroachment permit fees and pavement restoration fees as dictated by city code. These fees are not an additional increase, but merely an update of the existing escalator as outlined in the agreement to reflect the current fee. Staff recommends adoption of ordinance number 4865, authorizing a 10-year renewal of the license agreement. Mayor and Council, that concludes my presentation.
Council, any questions? Are there any questions or comments from the audience? All right. No, but we would like you to come up to the dais and the microphone, please. State your name and address.
Hi, sorry, I was walking around and jumped in here. My name is Paul Hodges. I live at 275 West San Marcos in Chandler. A quick question is, I know that El Paso Natural Gas has had some failures in the past, in particular in New Mexico. So the question I had is there any requirement that we would have for them to verify, validate, or check the pipes that they have existing before moving forward with this?
Would you like to answer that, sir? Sir, would you? Okay, no, go ahead.
Through the mayor. Yes, the state Arizona Corporation Commission has safety guidelines. That's where the regulations apply for ensuring that the El Paso natural gas pipeline is maintained safely. The city of Chandler does not have any safety guidelines that we require, although we do inspect their construction as it goes in to make sure that it meets our public right-of-way standards.
So it's regulated by state and not municipalities. So.
For the operations and maintenance, yes.
Great. Did that answer your question, sir?
Yes, it did. I guess the follow-up question is, I guess, obvious question, but
could you come up?
I have no further.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor.
Councilmember Stewart.
I think I get what the question from the audience is about. It's about what are the checks and balances for our residents. We're responsible to our residents to make sure that those are being laid safely and that we're doing our due diligence to make sure that they're taken care of, and we keep an eye on the Corporation Commission. They've got a lot to do. So what are the stopgaps from the local level to make sure that if we're going to sign this agreement, which I'm sure we will, that we have some way to make sure that they're staying safe?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart. While they're doing construction and laying the new pipe, anytime that they do that, we do inspect the trench and backfill and any restoration of pavement or concrete that they impact while they're doing that work. As far as the ongoing operations and maintenance goes, whenever they come in to do some sort of maintenance activity that would impact our right-of-way, we do require them to pull a permit. But most of the time, their maintenance activities occur on private easements that they own with where their regulator stations are. And so we don't really even know most of the time when they're actually doing the maintenance activities. So.
Okay.
You think that's something we should know?
Through the mayor, Councilmember Stewart. There is a notification process that requires them to notify us whenever they're working within the right-of-way or within city property, such as some of their private easements are on city-owned property. When they do work in those areas where they're doing maintenance, they do notify us for that.
If I may, Mayor, just add on to that, Councilmember Stewart. This is an area where we have split jurisdiction. Our jurisdiction's only as to the city property, and so where they're on property not controlled by the city, that is completely within the state's jurisdiction and not ours. We don't even have the ability to regulate that. And they have reporting requirements that they have to adhere to the Corporation Commission.
All right, any other questions? All right, no other questions from the audience. Okay, we will close this public hearing. Thank you. Council, related to that public hearing, we have one action item, which is the introduction, as was mentioned, of ordinance number 4865 for renewal of our agreement with El Paso Natural Gas Company for open access transportation of natural gas. This is for the renewal of the agreement. and we've heard a staff presentation. Are there any further questions or comments for staff? All right. Seeing none, is there a motion? Councilmember Vice Mayor Rowe.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pass and approve introduction of ordinance number 4865 for renewal of an agreement with El Paso Natural Gas Company for open access transportation of natural gas. That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Councilmember Lopez. Council, please vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Very good. That concludes the action agenda item of our meeting tonight. Next is unscheduled public appearances. Are there any unscheduled public appearances for us tonight? Seeing none. Current events. We'll start off. I do want to say, start off by saying thank you, staff, for the Budget Connect presentation. And well, I know a number of people think that, well, the city's going to do what they're going to do. The budget doesn't affect me. But the truth is, you turn on your water, you have utilities that come into your house, your power, when your sprinklers go on, when you flush your toilet, when you walk on the sidewalk, when your car leaves your driveway and you're in our streets, you see our police, our fire. In fact, as all these are, your kids play in our parks. All these items are all part of the budget that will be passed here this year. And I do want to thank staff for their great work as usual in terms of the process. It gives a lot of opportunity for people to respond. So I want to thank everyone who attended or watched this event, our Budget Connect. I also want to thank everyone who came to my first State of the City address last week. We did have a lot of fun. And again, thank you, staff, for the videos, for just the extra hard work that went into making this a great event on an inclement night. We had over 300 people attend, and we reached more than 4,500 people online with our videos and presentations, which is really amazing. So I want to give a special thank you to our city's communication and public affairs team, the Chandler Center of the Arts, and all other city staff for their contributions in making this a memorable and fun State of the City address. I'd say that the bar is set high for next year. So we will see what videos and what else comes our way next year. I'm looking forward to it already. Moving on, I do want to encourage everyone to attend our 31st annual Chandler Chamber Ostrich Festival next week, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. It's going to be another great event, even though that we've had some rainy weather that has given up a soft base. I believe that weather is going to be warm, and it should be another fantastic event. I'm not going to show you, but I have ostrich socks on right now. You can connect with me afterwards and see these wondrous socks in just preparation for this announcement. At our last study session, we had the Chamber's Tutu, the ostrich, join us there and to receive the proclamation. So I also want to encourage you to stay tuned in to my Facebook, our Twitter, our Morning Minute, where we will continue to be sharing, and the Chamber will be sharing some exciting things that you should and will expect to see at the event. So with that, I want to hand this over to Councilmember Stewart for announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. And I am absolutely excited about the Ostrich Festival as well. On Saturday night, we have the Commodores, and I may or may not know all the words to Brick House. I may or may not. Yesterday, I had a great business retention event with Councilmember Lopez and the Chandler Chamber of Commerce with Peixoto Coffee, which opened up. I think they worked with Kim in our downtown development about 4 years ago to open up their first coffee shop. And if you ever had their coffee, it's unbelievable. It's actually from crop to cup is what they call it. And they have their own farm in Brazil. And we went over there yesterday and we had just a great time. We did some tasting. But this is just another example of the small business and the small business support that the city provides to our entrepreneurs. And so Peixoto is the only coffee roaster in the greater Phoenix area. And when they wanted to expand, they worked with our economic development team to find a location up in North, it's called Uptown Chandler. And they've got a really nice facility up there for roasting and things like that. And so it was just a great time. And I wanted to share that story with you to let you know that Chandler's open for business. It's a great place to start your business. And we have in March coming up, and I'll keep reminding you, Small Business Series coming up every week on Wednesday. So you'll get access to resources through the city and through our economic development department to be able to kick off your own business, do your side gig. So I'll pass that on to Councilmember McClymons.
Councilmember McClymons.
Hey, thank you, Mayor. When I hear the Commodores, I think of the Commodore 128Z computer, but I'm actually more excited for Flowrida. Flowrida has had 9 top 10 hits in the last decade, and so he's performing Friday night. So it's going to be a great festival weekend. But tonight I wanted to say that the City Chandler's 2018 annual report is out now. The report centers on the strategic goals set by the City Council, and the goal categories are attracting a range of private sector businesses, being a leader in transparency, being safe and beautiful, being the most connected city, maintaining fiscal sustainability, and then possessing a contemporary culture to capitalize on the cultural and ethnic diversity in our community. Anyways, check it out online at chandleraz.gov/annual report. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Rowe.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank you for, and the council too, for having an earlier council meeting. And I think staff would say ditto to that. And so that's good. We get done a little bit earlier in the evening, and that's good. But for the community, for you folks out there, there's lots of great things going on. It's spring, and so and we're heading into some warmer weather. But I want to ask you to remember to shop Chandler, and that's always in the back of our minds a little bit. But if you go into a store and you are able to hold a camera or a device or something that you want to buy, a particular piece of clothing or something like that, you might say, hey, I could go online and buy this. Well, there's people that are paying rent and taking chances on us, and take a chance on them. Support Chandler, eat in our restaurants. Our downtown is under some construction, but come on in. There's parking all up and down Arizona Avenue. Come out and shop and eat and shop Chandler. That's my message. Thank you.
This is why at my State of the City address, I commended Vice Mayor Rowe on his love of downtown Chandler. So. Councilmember Wong.
Yes. Last night, the mayor and the council went to educational update by the Dignity Health. I think we will listen to their expansion plan and the other plans too. So something good are going to come to Chandler. And this noon, I think mayor and most of the council member also went to Lotus Project. I think sooner or later we will give everybody a report on that. I guess I think it's also an event, and that's if my memory is correct, that's a 50-acre lot. They bought from the city, and right now there's 4 buildings, and the number I got is 473,000 square foot for lease, and it's just a phase 1. So this is pretty exciting event. The third thing is this is annual event on the coming Saturday, March 2nd, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Chandler Fire and Police Department have partnered to host a public safety fair, and this is a free event just occur at downtown right in front of our main police department. We also, other than other than the public safe affairs, they also have car show and, well, they also have car show, nothing else. Okay, that's also fun. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Lopez.
And nothing tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Councilmember Orlando.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
City Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had two quick things. First of all, I just wanted to thank Mayor and Council for hosting the Budget Connect tonight and your continued guidance as we make our way through this budget process. I think we are not only knee-deep at this point, but somewhere trying to get out of the water, possibly, to keep our heads afloat. Secondly, I just wanted to announce and congratulate Raylan Nielsen. She has been selected as our Human Resources Director. I will say next year we may give her a question because it looks like she snuck out a bit early. But anyway, congratulate her on her new position. Thank you.
Council, this concludes our meeting. Good meeting. Sam, I got a suggestion for you. It might be helpful